Hi guys, and welcome back to Manch Talk. I'm delighted to be beaming into your homes, and as you can see, I'm here with my colleague Dominic.
Hello, hello.
Thank you for coming back. As we promised about a month ago, we are making this a regular feature where we are going to tell you more about the New Hampshire real estate. Dominic and I work together for Porcupine Real Estate, and if you have any questions, you can email us with our first names at porcupinerealestate.com, and we really are here to serve you, to sort of figure out what your needs are, but also to let people, who live in the state kind of know what the market looks like, what's going on out there, and all of that. Before we dive into what's up with the real estate market, I was going to let everyone know that I have no idea what's happening in the world right now. I don't know if you feel that way too, but I kind of have a little bit of summer vibes and kind of avoiding some of the social media drama.
I would say that I have had many projects that we've been working on at our personal properties. So I've kind of been pleasantly ignorant on what's going on in the world at the moment. So.
Tell me a little bit about what projects you're working on.
So we recently built a chicken coop, and I've got 10 chickens now. And in addition to that, I've also rebuilt our back deck.
Nice.
So that was with the help of my father-in-law.
Very cool.
It's been a very busy summer, productive summer, and
So are you new to the chicken world?
We had chickens when we lived back in New York.
Okay.
I only had 6 back then, and so now I've got 10, and they're a mixed variety. So I've got some bantams, I've got some full-size ones. So it's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And,
nice.
Yeah, happy to be back at it again.
Yeah, I have to tell you, I did not think I would love having chickens as much as I do. And for folks back home who are thinking about it, highly recommend it.
Oh, they're so much fun.
Maybe in the city, there are a little bit of rules you have to think about. I believe in Manchester, you're supposed to have half an acre of land before you're allowed to really have them. But, I'm one of those maybe do it and then ask forgiveness kind of people. But there really is something to be said, I think, of that relationship with
your food. I mean, that's basically what it comes down to. We're raising them for eggs, not for meat. But the guy that we actually got them from is a friend of mine who owns Life and Liberty Farms and here in New Hampshire. And he raises them as a mixed breed, so you could actually butcher them for meat as well. And I swear, like the adult female ones right now are like monsters. They're massive. But I'm not interested in that, just for the eggs. So,
right. Yeah. I so far I've been having mine for the eggs too. Of course, I had a rooster initially, and so that one did get harvested. But I think one of my ladies is getting a little old, and I'm just kind of looking away because I don't want to think about it too hard.
Well, at a certain point, you can turn them just into pets too. So,
right.
If they don't have to be productive, especially if you have all the other ones. Yep. How many eggs can you really eat?
Right. Yeah. And then of course they lay a little less in the winter and that kind of stuff. But yeah, they kind of are like pets. Yeah. I don't know. I love them. All right, but then shifting gears to real estate. The reason I don't know what's going on in the world is actually because we've been pretty busy.
Yeah, actually.
The market's picked up as it always does in the summer months, really from spring onwards. And, I've been in the North Country. I'm trying to put together this deal to buy this huge campus. Everyone's like, you're bananas, and I probably am, but I'm going to give it a good old college try, as they say. Literally for a college, by the way. But for people who don't have $5 million to drop on buying a campus up in Bethlehem, New Hampshire, let's talk a little bit. I know you've been busy as well.
Yeah. Actually, it's been a very successful year so far. I'm a little behind where I was last year, but I honestly think that's just, it's going to catch up, to be completely honest. So from what I've seen in the market to what I'm actually looking at the statistics from the from the New Hampshire Board of Realtors, We're seeing 19% more listings over last year for single-family homes and 30% more listings for condos. So it's actually quite a bit more on the market right now.
Oh, that's interesting. And I wonder, it does seem to me like a lot of the construction, most recent construction has been duplexes and condos and those kinds of buildings. So that makes some sense to me. I noticed out for our local audience, out going on Mast Road towards Goffstown, there's actually a property right on 114, and I think it's the 3 that comes from Bedford, that I know the property because I used to put political signs there. I knew the owner. There used to be an old real estate firm or something there, and that's been, demolished, and there's a whole duplex property development that's gone up there with probably 20 units. So 30% up in condos?
30% more, yeah. And as of, this was June too, but there were 2,400 listings live at the end of June. So that's the most we've seen in a while, actually, at any given time.
So I've noticed, and I don't know if this has been your experience as well, I am seeing, even though I would say the market's hot. Agreed? Yeah. Yep. Inventory's down, prices are kind of up. The rates aren't great. I was up in the North Country and someone was like, hey, what are the rates right now? And I was like, I didn't really hear that.
6.5-ish. Yeah, that's what they're at.
6.5, 7, But I am seeing price drops.
Yes. So we are seeing a lot more properties sit on the market for a little bit longer. I did mark down here that the single-family homes are, on average, lasting about 19 days before they go under contract.
Okay, and I think last month that was 11 or 13, maybe?
It was 17 when we did last talk.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's a couple more days. Condos are staying around for a little bit longer, but we are seeing a little bit of a dip in the amount of money being paid. So it went from 104%, I believe, last month of listing price actually being accepted to 101%. So it's starting to come down a little bit, meaning that on average you might have a little bit more room to negotiate on prices, or those prices might start to come down
as the market sort of adjusts. And so obviously 104%, that means people are actually offering a little bit over asking. When you say 101%, now we're sort of on parity for listing price.
Correct.
I have some clients under contract in the western part of the state near Keene, and initially they were like, the price had come down on the property a couple of times, and so they were like, hey, we want to go in under listing. And I was like, well, you guys also want to do an inspection, and since it came down, and it was one of those where it didn't seem like it had that much, but then the day we went to look, when we were pulling in, someone was pulling out. When we pulled out, someone was pulling in, that kind of thing. So obviously the market had decided we're at a better price point, right? And I was like, I think we should go in at asking because it had already come down twice. And, it was 20 acres. It's a decent house. And they were like, yeah, let's do that. And the offer was accepted.
That's
and
great.
I feel like that is that moment where you go, okay, let's do this. And obviously if something horrendous comes up on inspection, which hopefully it won't, then you have that time afterwards to negotiate, but you've kind of establish some good feelings with your seller.
Yeah, and I think that's an important thing to kind of keep in mind, that every situation's different, and as a professional, we are the ones who kind of make those calls. So and it's not our decision, obviously, but we want to educate the people who we're working with to say, okay, this is what I'm seeing, ultimately it's up to you, but if it was me, this is what I would do.
Right.
So
can we just talk, as a little Carla side quest, why is the internet and Wi-Fi and phone coverage so spotty in the western part of the state? I have gotten lost 3 times with these clients.
Who's your carrier?
I don't. Verizon.
Verizon. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm with AT&T, and actually, I only have bad luck when I'm up north. So I don't typically drop when I'm on the west side.
I have good coverage up north.
Yeah.
So maybe together we should merge some maps.
I guess so.
But yeah, no, in the North Country I've hardly ever gotten lost, but this has been really interesting.
That's funny.
Yeah, and of course for folks watching, those are some of the things you want to be thinking about. As the market changes, and as we get more technology and tools to our disposal, I think one of the real value propositions of New Hampshire is that, hey, there's some really fabulous remote spots,
Oh, yeah.
with some acreage and, all of that. And so then the number one question becomes, but can I work from home, right? And my answer to that is Starlink,
Yeah,
if all else fails.
so Starlink too, it's not only for people who live in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
So like I know several folks who have bought houses within the past year who have just gone to Starlink in general.
Oh, really?
And it's just anywhere you are, you can take it, and you can take it with you too. So like if you wanted to like go camping for a weekend, you can literally take your Starlink satellite. I'm not sure if this is true for all of them, but you can park it on top of your car where you parked and bring it with you. So it's pretty neat. So
wow. So so we're seeing more listings. What's the median sales price looking like?
So currently, right now, in the entire state, it's going to be $565,000, which is an increase of about 5% over last year this time.
Okay.
We're seeing about 427,000 for condos.
Wow.
So,
okay.
Yeah, that gap is getting smaller and smaller.
Right.
And I do think there's a misconception, I guess. It's personal opinion, really, but that condos are inferior to a house. But I don't think it is necessarily. It's all based on your situation. So like if you're somebody who doesn't want to do any yard maintenance, you don't want to have to worry about plowing yourself out or doing anything along those lines, a condo might be the right way to go.
And of course it is really up to one's clients. I do hear, although honestly I was out on a property yesterday morning, I think. I don't know, my days have gone a little hazy over the past, maybe Monday, in Hooksett. And it was a condo, and so of course there what you want to be thinking about is like, oh, what do the bylaws look like for this, development, and what are those condo fees? Because I think there is, you really do need to bring out your calculator and your spreadsheets and kind of compare apples to apples to be like, oh, wait a second, this is this much per month, and does this make sense? So it works for some people, it doesn't work for others. I know for these clients, they are gung-ho for a condo. That's the lifestyle they want. They want the low maintenance. They don't want to worry about plowing. They don't want to worry about who's doing trash, that kind of stuff. And so it's just really what you want and what you need.
It all just comes down to whatever their needs are, for sure.
That is very awkward. Now someone is calling me. I don't know what to do here. Okay, hold on.
I don't even see it.
This is not going to be good. All right, I think I stopped that. But that was... okay, I've got a lot of phone calls to make. My apologies to everyone on the internet and at home. Okay, so median sales price hovering in the 550.
Yep.
It in some ways is shocking to me considering, but I think maybe people should understand the reflection of the house prices to some extent also is inflationary.
For sure.
So you have to remember, it looks that much more expensive, and it is, but it is because the government is stealing your money slowly but surely.
So one thing I will say too is that is like over the entire state. So each county does vary greatly depending on where you are. The price is going to be a lot different. So Rockingham County specifically, which is kind of the Seacoast area, and Stratford, those two areas tend to be a little on the high side. So we're seeing $710 as the average price in Rockingham County right now. So, and that kind of throws everything off.
And so what are the towns in Rockingham, or a few of them just for folks? It's like
Portsmouth.
So it's kind of that sea-coasty area, which we do know because there is...
Actually, Stratford is...
Yeah.
I'd have to double check.
Salem, and is it kind of the belt? I don't actually know, which was why I was
should have brought my map.
We should know because I'm so visual as well, but I keep like moving them around in my head.
And to me, it's helpful to look at the counties, but also because the counties don't really govern a whole lot.
Right.
I always focus on the towns more than I do on the counties necessarily.
So we know the towns, but not necessarily what their county lines are. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the
spot.
spot.
No, yeah, it's okay.
So Rockingham is in the 700s, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so it's very regional. North Country is still fairly affordable.
Yeah,
really.
Coas County, you're looking at $260,000 as your average home price.
Right. And of course, those are trade-offs, right? Like one is more convenient, or you have it, it's a little warmer or more city life or whatever. And then up that way, it's beautiful views, beautiful vistas. I mean, I was up in Lancaster on Monday night, and I woke up super early on Tuesday morning, and it was one of those incredibly clear days where you could just see forever. And there was a crescent moon and the one star, and I have just this great photo where it was just the sun was just coming up on the mountain line. It was great. So other things that you're kind of seeing in the market, like what are days on market? That's
so that's up a
metric.
little bit as well.
Okay.
We're seeing 19 days on market in general for single-family homes and about 23 days on market for condos.
Okay.
So to me, what that says is things are starting to sit for a little longer. So there is a bit more potential to kind of make those deals that everybody talks about.
So like in easy math, it's like, okay, it's sitting maybe for like 3 weeks. That is important, right? Because I do see some clients who are like, they're not necessarily hot to trot, but then they find a place that they kind of like, but then they're not, because they're not quite ready to pull the trigger.
Right.
They're, that frustration cycle of, oh, it's just about to write enough, or right? So of course our recommendation is, if you like some place, get in there,
well,
right?
and so I have a great example of that too, where I'm working with a client who one of his key metrics is trying to find something that he can get for under the asking price. So a lot of times he looks at those days on market as his key indicating factor.
Oh,
so he's like, anything that's been on for more than 30 days, those are the ones that I want to really keep an eye on, because I might be able to convince them, okay, will you take $50,000 under the asking price or whatever it might be, because it's been sitting around for a little while. But that does come back to bite you every once in a while, because actually I found out that we both were looking at the same property. So the one that you just went under contract on, I had a client who was interested in as well. So
you snooze, you lose.
That's
as
true.
They say.
Yep, that is true. It's very true.
And of course, every deal, again, as we've talked about, is unique, right? But there are stronger and weaker offers. A stronger offer, of course, is something like, well, you walk in with a suitcase of cash. That's cash is king, right?
Cash will always be king.
But there are different factors that people look at. Sometimes because we work with so many clients from out of state. One of the contingencies we both run into from time to time is that they still need to sell their home wherever they are, right? And that, if you guys are trying to learn stuff about the market, that's not ideal. I mean, it happens a fair amount. But if you're lucky enough to be in a pretty hot market where you are, it can go fairly smoothly.
Especially if you're in like a very desirable area like Long Island or something like that, where you're going to be able to sell your house instantaneously when you put it on the market. There's other factors too, meaning like if you are out of state, and one of your criteria is that I want to be able to see it in person. So you have to put in, I've worked with people where we've had to put in a contingency that says it's ultimately up to the person, once we're under contract, to fly out, see it in person, and make a yes or no decision on it when they've seen it in person.
Oh, wow.
Now, that typically works out okay, but every once in a while, somebody might fly out and be like, oh, the house is okay, but I hate the area, or something like that.
Yep.
So they back out. So that could be a factor for somebody selling their house, looking at that criteria and going, oh, I don't want to take the chance that somebody's going to make a decision like that. So
yeah, because actually I have a client flying out to see something next week.
Yeah.
So okay.
But yeah, I always put that in the contract so that we do have an out just in case there's something that they don't like about the place.
Right.
So
and this is such a shifting gear. Sorry, it doesn't even make sense. But I saw a post. I think it was from you this morning, or someone from our firm, talking about that 3D printed house.
Oh yeah.
Do you know anything about that?
I know very little. I know it's in Manchester, but
right
other
on the
than
east
that,
side, I believe.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I guess we're on the east side.
I know a lot of
right
people
now.
don't like the way they look. I don't mind it. Like I like unique structures and unique things like that.
So is it prefabricated?
They print it in place. Like literally, there's a machine that sits in the center of the thing, and it literally like prints around like a 3D printer does.
Really?
Yeah.
And it's fully insulated. Wow. So I'm definitely going to go do a little bit of reconnaissance
I
on
want to
that.
go take a look at it.
That sounds fascinating. I mean, I do kind of wonder what are the chemicals that,
It's concrete.
That's it?
It's literally like a version of concrete.
What?
Yep, and they just print it right in place. It all stays right where it is. And
well, everyone heard it here first. The first 3D printed house with concrete was built here in New Hampshire, I suppose. The first one in New Hampshire, right here on the west side or east side of Manchester. And I'm definitely going to go take a look at that because,
be a good field trip.
well, also because so many of our clients have that dream, right? A lot of people from out of state will be like, I want the land and I want to build and I want to, do all these things. And construction costs are quite spendy up here. I mean, there is a labor shortage, So these are things you have to think about and contend with. So if there's this hack where you just have a giant printer.
And I'm sure I guarantee you it's still probably the same price as building a stick-built house, especially at this point with the technology being new and everything. But, eventually maybe that's the way we go. I mean, you would think that concrete would be cheaper than wood, but I don't know.
And yeah, interesting. I do remember, and I have no idea if it was a story, just a story to scare people, scarcity story, but I do recall maybe like 4 or 5 years ago, there were all these Insta reels. You know how they scare you about something in the moment,
Sure.
and then 2 years later you're like, oh, that didn't happen. So the scare story at the time was we were running out of sand to make concrete.
I remember that. Yeah, I do remember that.
And now I'm like, well, now we're printing buildings out of concrete. Maybe we're not running out of sand.
Well, there was a helium scare for a little while too. Like there's only so much helium and it's going to be gone in 5 years.
So helium's a weird one because America actually has helium storages from way back. They have the world's largest supply. They're hoarding helium, the U.S. government, for whatever reason. Hindenburg is the reason. All right, so we have about 5 minutes left, I think. So let's make sure we cover everything we wanted to here. We've also been, working on some media and some press. You need to start answering the pitches. Yes, because that's part of like my cycle of work, so that part's easy for me. But we have had some success with getting Porcupine Real Estate mentioned in several articles, primarily on Realtor.com recently. One of the ones that I thought was kind of cute and quaint, this came out in, I think it was in Realtor, it might have been in New York something, but was about Bretton Woods up in the northern part of the state, and they were talking about how there's this return from buyers to sort of a more small town, more sort of rural thing. Are you seeing a bit of that?
Not so much. I find either most of the clients that I work with want to be in the middle of nowhere. That's just the way it is. And every once in a while, I'll find somebody who wants to be like smack dab in the center of one of the town areas, like Nashua or Manchester or Portsmouth or something.
And then usually the term is walkability, right?
Yes. Yeah. A lot of people who aren't familiar with New Hampshire want to be walkable to a lot of places, but unfortunately, there's few and far between like walkability areas here.
Yeah, I mean some of the small. I mean Portsmouth is a beautiful walkable town, right? And I will always say this with deep regret that when I left New York City, and I was still lawyering and probably could have afforded it. I looked at a place that was, I think it was like $450 back then, so almost 20 years ago, on the water in Portsmouth. And I'm like, why didn't I buy that?
Yeah.
Live and learn. And that feeling of why didn't I buy that, that's what we want to help you guys avoid.
For sure.
All right, well, what else do you think we should know? I feel like
just a couple of things. We do still have a land listing in Henniker, so if anybody's looking for an undeveloped parcel, it's right over near Pat's Peak. It's a beautiful 7.8 acres in Henniker, very reasonably priced, and that could be used as commercial or residential, so it's kind of a mixed-use area. And then we do also have a listing that's going to be coming probably next week. It'll definitely be next week. I'm not sure what day, but it's a 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 1,800 square foot Cape in Northwood on 2.25 acres, walkable to the public beach. Really nice little property, and that's going to be very reasonably priced as well.
And
so.
remind me, Northwoods where? Between where and where?
So not too far from where I am in Epping,
Okay.
like 15 minutes
So
away.
kind of sea-coasty?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I was trying to think of my list, who could I work for. I do have clients who are looking for a very central area because they do rock climbing.
Okay.
So it feels like every time I meet someone, they have this particular thing. And so businessmen might measure the distance from the airport, and this guy is measuring, the distance from rock faces, and I thought, that's kind of cool. This is a whole new, different thing.
But if that sounds like something you might be interested in, feel free to reach out to us. We can give you the details offline. Again, it is not live yet, so this is coming soon.
So message him now. You might get
Beat
a
the rush.
sweet
Beat
deal.
the rush.
Yeah. How can folks get a hold of you?
Dominic at porcupinerealestate.com. That's DOMINIC.
Perfect. And people can reach me in a myriad of ways, including, just tagging me or DMing me or whatever. But if you really want to find me, please email me for the real estate stuff at Carla at porcupinerealestate.com. We are here to serve you guys, to really help people find that forever home, find that spot. Some people are like, hey, help me rent a place until I can figure out what I want to do. So I do want to mention, for people who may not know, the market actually quite turns, right? Because a lot of our homes here in New Hampshire are second homes. Mm-hmm. We were talking about this, I forget on the air, but we saw a listing where it said, there's so many vacant homes in New Hampshire. And we were both like, huh? And then we're like, they mean second homes, right?
Yeah,
so,
there's a shockingly high amount of homes that are not occupied year-round in New Hampshire.
And so some of those that aren't occupied year-round are actually available to be rented for fairly reasonable rates. So if you're coming from one of those big cities, New York, LA, high tax states, and you're coming to low tax New Hampshire, talk to us about that, because you could probably get a fabulous house on a lake somewhere and pay maybe like 40%, 50% of
significantly
the rate, and that could be your buffer for 6 months to figure out where exactly in this great state of ours you want to
I had
live.
a client that was renting on Hampton Beach, basically right on the beach, for 3 months in the winter while he looked for properties. And it was ridiculously cheap.
Right. So keep that in mind as well. You guys know where to find us. You can go to our works website, porcupinerealestate.com. Poke around there. Remember, we also do transactions for crypto. So if you have a home need, you can probably get it filled through us.
Absolutely.
All right. Thanks, guys. We'll see you back here again.